Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to section 10.6 Trigonomic Ratios Part 1. First thing we have to do though is ask ourselves, what is trigonometry? Well, trigonometry is the study of the properties of triangles and trigonomic functions and their applications. Next vocab word we have is trigonomic ratio. All that is a ratio of the lengths of the sides of a right triangle. So let's get into some trigonomic ratios and some trigonometry. First trigonomic ratio that we have, here are three common ones, but the first one is the sine of angle. We read this guy right here as an angle, all right? That denotes angle. So sine of angle A. Well, we look down here in our triangle. This is angle A, all right? We're talking about this angle right now. Sine of angle A. What is sine? Well, sine is the leg opposite of A. Now, what does that mean? That means the leg opposite of A will be that little a. Notice how the angle is a capital letter and the side is a lowercase letter, and that's going to be true for almost all geometry that you take next year. Then it's leg opposite of angle A over the hypotenuse. Well, what's the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is always going to be the longest side across from the 90-degree angle, which is over C. So if we had to write down, sine of angle A would be little a, which is across from the big A, over C. So that's one of the trigonomic ratios. Let's find the next one, which is cosine. Cosine of angle A. Now, cosine of angle A. Again, we start at angle A. Now, leg adjacent. Adjacent means right next to. So this would be the adjacent side here. So that would be B, and then it's over the hypotenuse again, and the hypotenuse, just like before, is across from the 90-degree angle, and so it is C. Now, what is tangent? Tangent is leg opposite of angle A and the adjacent leg. So let's take a peek. Again, we have angle A. We want the opposite of A. So opposite of angle A would be little a. And then adjacent, which means right next to. Adjacent means right next to. Ladies and gentlemen, adjacent means you got it, right next to. So B is that side. So opposite, which is A, and then adjacent is B. So after some of that trigonometry, let's go ahead and try a couple problems. We are asked to find the values of three trigonomic ratios for angle B. Well, first thing we have to do is locate angle B. Next, we are asked for sine of B equals, well, what sine is opposite over hypotenuse? What is opposite? You just draw a straight line across that angle. That is 5. So 5 will go on top, over, and then what is hypotenuse? Remember, your hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle, so it's going to be 13. So sine of B equals 5/13. Now, with cosine B is adjacent over hypotenuse. Well, we go to B again. What is my adjacent side? My adjacent means right next to. Notice I have this side and I have this side that could be the adjacent sides, correct? But, ladies and gentlemen, what is this 13? This 13 has to be the hypotenuse. So 13 cannot be my adjacent side. It has to be 12 because 12 is right next to and is not the hypotenuse. So it's 12 is the adjacent side, and it goes on top of the hypotenuse, which is 13. And finally, we are ready for tangent of B. Tangent of B is opposite over adjacent. Well, what is opposite from angle B? There's angle B. Opposite is going to be 5. So it's 5 over the adjacent. Remember from before, this is the hypotenuse. It can't be the adjacent side, so this guy would be adjacent, which is 5/12. Next one. Here we're asked to find sine of B, cosine of B, and tangent of B again. Right? Piece of cake. However, if I start on sine of b, which is opposite over hypotenuse, here is my b opposite. I go across the triangle, there's opposite. Uh-oh, it's b. How do I figure out what this b is? Think back to 2 days ago when we covered the Pythagorean theorem. We can find that using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I'm going to plug my a in, which is 9 squared plus b squared equals 15 squared. Now I'm going to solve for b to see if I can figure out what that is. It's going to be 81 plus b squared equals 225. I subtract my 81 over, so b squared equals 144. How do you undo that square? Please remember that we have to square root both sides, and so now b is 12. So now instead of b, it is going to be 12. We are going to use that 12. So here we go. Sine of b. Again, we start at b. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite is going to be that 12 over, what is my hypotenuse? My hypotenuse is across the 90-degree angle. So it is 15. Now cosine b. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. What is my adjacent side from b? This is the hypotenuse, so this has to be the adjacent side. That is going to be 9 over, what is my hypotenuse? Across from the 90-degree angle. Always across from your 90-degree angle, so it's 9 over 15. And then tangent of b is going to be opposite, so opposite again is 12. And adjacent, it's not the hypotenuse, it's right next to, it's not the longest side. The adjacent side will never be the longest side, and it's going to be 12 over 9 for tangent of b. Now you'll like these problems because you get to use your calculator to find the value of each trigonomic ratio to the nearest 10 thousandths. What we have to do is to make sure our calculator is in degrees, because these are all degrees. Most of the time they'll have a degree sign right here. So we make sure our calculator is in degrees, then we hit sine of 35 and it spits out a number. In this case it will be a decimal. Now 10 thousandths mean we have 4 decimal places, so it's 0.5736. Same thing with cosine. 75, hit cosine or cosine of 75 depending on your calculator. We'll give you 0.2588, and then 5 tangent of 45 is just 1. Now if you have trouble finding these buttons on your calculator, I'll help you in class. Also, if your calculator does not say degrees, I will also help you with that, because there are 2 different type of angle measures, degrees and radians. If they're in degrees, we want the calculator in degrees, and if they give us radians, we want the calculator in radians. But that does it for section 10.6, trigonomic ratios. Good day.